What's up? How you doing? Here we are. Beautiful night tonight. Beautiful night. It's around 10:30 right now. I just got back from the movies. We saw Civil War. Civil War. And then after that, we went and had dinner. Sushi. Big fan of sushi. Love it. Cold water with ice. Delicious. So I have my Woodman's Pal here. Bought this a few years ago. Good quality. It's like a machete, but it does a lot more. Nice leather. Look at that. Thick leather. Beautiful leather. Beautiful stitching. Buttons here. Beautiful wood handle. Leather. So I'm going to unbutton it and show you. Look at that. The sharp edge right there. And then you have in here is sharp. See that? That's good for like slicing branches. You can cut small trees with this. You can cut branches down, all sorts of things. It's great for camping. I highly recommend this. It's really good quality. Just don't grab it from here and slide your hand up. This side is dull. This is sharp in here. If you can see that. And then this is very sharp right here. So if you want to go hiking and then do a little camping, this is the best thing to bring. And the leather is nice and thick. Look how thick that is. Nice and thick. Good stitching job around the edges. So I've had it for a few years and I highly recommend it. It's got a loop here. You can pass your belt and wear it on your side in case you go to the Congo, which every once in a while I bring it up. You know, we should go and take a walk in the Congo. My wife thinks that's a bad idea. Thinks it's dangerous there. So that movie I saw tonight, Civil War, reminded me of a dream I had years ago. So in June 2020, I had felt like a nightmare. You know that feeling you have in a dream, and then you wake up, and you have that feeling like, I'm glad that was a dream. So in the dream, I'm walking on Broadway in downtown LA, and I've been there hundreds and hundreds of times on Broadway, walking up and down. And in the dream, it looks no different, except for one thing. There's like a department store on Broadway, and it looks like it's been there since the 40s. So I go inside, and there's about 6 or 7 people there. They're kind of, waiting to pay. And I'm looking, and it's almost like it's like a Macy's, but from the old days. That's what it looks like. So I'm killing time, and all of a sudden the power goes out. And everybody's kind of like, what's going on, And in the dream, you can sense a little bit of panic. And I step outside and I look, and I hear automatic gunfire. It's like, bop, 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 it's like going off. And the knowledge in my head in the dream is that it's a foreign invasion. Some country has invaded us. And I'm thinking, wow, it's an invasion. It's Invasion USA with Chuck Norris. Anyway, so it feels very real in the dream, and everybody's like looking where to go. And the more time passes, the louder the gunfire gets. So they're coming our way. And then we hear something, is like a radio on, and it says that the entire United States is being invaded by a foreign force. But they don't, in the dream, they don't mention who it is. So this dream was kind of like the movie tonight that we saw, Civil War. And I've always been amazed at the relative, you know, it's relatively safe in terms of what it could be. It could be crazy. I mean, you know, the way the world is, it could be anarchy everywhere. People, you know, just taking whatever they want and hurting people. I mean, it's that way now, but it could be 100 times worse. And it surprises me that it's not that way. You know, I mean, this planet could totally be anarchy. It could totally be chaos. And sometimes it feels like it is, but not the way I imagine it. So anyway, that's what we did tonight. And tomorrow we have a birthday party. My daughter's, one of their good friends there is getting a year older. So they're going to celebrate with her tomorrow. And we're going to be there as well. So I'm looking forward to that. Good people. And, you know, another weekend, you get to sleep a little bit extra. That's the one thing I like about Saturdays now, you know, because usually I'm up 6:30 in the morning. I'm up, so the one thing about getting up early is that you never feel like you've got enough sleep. You always think, I wish I had another hour. And sometimes, you know, the funny thing is, sometimes I'll get up, use the bathroom or something, and I always say, you know, in my brain, I'm thinking, I hope it's not like 6:10 or something, or 6:15, because I hate it when I get up to use the bathroom and it's time to get up anyway. So 99% of the time when I get up, it's like 4, if I get up at all. But if I get up, it'll be around 4, and then I go, okay, I got 2.5 hours, I'm fine. I close my eyes and it feels like time to get up. 6:30 just flies by. So it makes no difference. But Saturdays and Sundays, you know, I'll get up a little bit later. You know, I was never one to sleep in. You know, some people on the weekends, they'll get up at like noontime. No, I might get up an hour and a half later or something, but not noontime. Even when I was a kid, I would get up normal time on Saturdays and Sundays. I never slept beyond, you know. But I had a good schedule back then. You know, my schedule back then was like, I'd get ready at around 10:30 to go to bed, and by 11 o'clock I was out. I was sleeping, and I would get up at 7. So 11 to 7, that was my time. And then I got a little older, and you start pushing it. You know, you start thinking, all right, I'll stay a little bit later. You know, I'll watch the Tonight Show. Back then, when Johnny Carson had it. And then I remember for a period of time there was Hawaii Five-0 on Sunday nights, 2 episodes. I'd watch them, but I always get up regular time. So when I was a kid, I would go to bed 11 and I would get up at 7, even on the weekends. And Saturday morning cartoons, 7 o'clock I was up. Sunday I was up too. I watched that show, Davy and Goliath. And back then, you know, funny thing is, I never thought of that show as a religious show. I thought it was just about a boy, his dog, and the adventures they went on. And I used to love it. I used to love that little rocket he had. He'd hit the button, the rocket would go up, and then it would come down, you know, like in pieces, and then it would form the emblem, the Lutheran church thing. You think that would have given it away to me that this is a religious show. But I used to love that Davy and Goliath. He was the only one that could understand the dog. The dog would bark, everybody else would hear barking, but Davy would hear language, the English language. Nowadays, they'd lock him up in a hospital somewhere. They'd say, yeah, you're hearing things. That's not, the dog is not talking. But yeah, I used to enjoy that, and every once in a while you'd see the father show up with like a looks like a Volkswagen van, and the mother was hot. Mother was hot, and then he had a bunch of friends, a bunch of friends that they always had some adventure. But that's how it was, with me growing up. You always had these friends, and then you'd go off somewhere and you'd find something to do, and it was an adventure. But Davy and Goliath, yeah, back then, not one time did I think about it as being religious. Now when I see it, I go, yeah, it's exactly what that is. So, yeah, I'm telling you, this is good quality. I highly recommend this, what do you want to call it, this tool. And it's got a nice, I think it's maple or oak, hickory, maybe it's hickory, the handle. They have a leather handle too, but I didn't like the design. I did not like the design of it, and I didn't like the way the blade looked. This one here, much better. Fall Guy, the movie coming out very soon. I watched that show because Lee Majors was on it, and because I was a fan of $6 Million Man. Once they canceled that, I was suffering withdrawal, so I had to watch something that had Lee Majors on it, and that was The Fall Guy. It's a stuntman and a bounty hunter. Extra money on the side. It was kind of like that, when the extra money thing was like BJ and the Bear, truck driver and crime fighter at the same time. Always some kind of murder going on, or some kind of scheme that he had to solve. It was always like driving around, and there it was, another murder. Greg Evigan. So yeah, beautiful night though. See a few stars out. I have an app here. It's a popular app. You point your phone up and it'll tell you the star, the distance, how far, the name of it, you name it, size. When I go to the Grand Canyon at nighttime, I'll go outside, be freezing out, and the sky will have thousands of stars. And I take my phone and I start, looking at the big ones, how far they are. A lot of them are like 30, 35 light years from here. Doesn't sound like far until you start breaking it down, and you realize that our closest star, Proxima Centauri, would take 75,000 to 100,000 years to get to if we took off today and traveled 24/7 non-stop with the fastest rocket that we have, which would be about 38,000 miles per hour. It would take about 75,000 years to get there. And that's 4.5 light years, not even 4.5, it's 4.2 light years away. So when I say something is 30,000 light years away, then you can imagine the vast distance. I mean, it's just crazy. It's mind-boggling. 4.2 light years is about 75,000 years from here, traveling at around 38,000 miles per hour, 24/7. 4.2 years. Now take 30,000 years, or even 10,000. 10,000. So, a lot of theories that the reason why we don't have any connection with life forms out there sending radio signals is because we're probably in a quiet part of the galaxy. Maybe we only exist because we're on the outer edge of one of the fingers that twirls. We're out here, so maybe like in the center, or maybe on the other side of the galaxy, maybe there's more life there, but it's so far away that we can't pick it up. And out here, like right now, if you see the stars, SETI has pretty much looked at all the close stars to us, and what they hear is crickets, nothing. So it could be that we're on the quiet part. Like an analogy would be, you know, you're on the planet here, right here on Earth, and everybody's here in the city, but for some reason you're in the middle of the desert and there's no one there, and you think by looking around that no one exists. But that's only because you're in the quiet part of Earth, right? So yeah, I'm very fascinated with the universe, the fact that we're here, that we exist, how we got here, where matter came from. And these questions that I ask, you know, are mind-boggling. I mean, if you think about it, the universe that we're in, I mean, it's a strange concept. It's not even a concept. I mean, it's a strange reality, the whole thing about it. You have an observable space, that which you can see, and it's around 43 billion light years each direction. So say 90 billion light years across, from horizon to horizon, or from observable side to observable side. So that is, you know, 90 billion light years, which is a crazy distance. But then you think about it, and that's just what we see. That's because the light from that distance has finally reached us. But there could be other lights and stars that go, you know, trillions of light years beyond that. Nobody knows. But I've said this before, I'm going to say it again because I'm here talking, but I've always found the concept of things existing to be weird. You know, the whole question of why is there something rather than nothing has always boggled my mind ever since I was little. Like, I'm talking about kindergarten, early years. I would think about it. I would say, imagine if there was nothing. You know, I mean, just imagine that we didn't exist, and not just us, but nothing existed. No reality, no empty space, no anything. No empty space where the universe. See, it's easy to comprehend empty space, like no planets, no suns, just emptiness, just a big cavity. But then you go beyond that. You're like, what exists beyond the empty cavity, the empty space? What's beyond that? And as long as you're alive, you will always ask what's beyond whatever they see at the furthest point. You will always ask what's beyond that. I mean, what is there? And then once you break through that, what's beyond that and beyond that, and you can go on forever. You know, because that's the way it is here too. You know, when you see something like you know, like a mountain, you walk because you're curious to see the mountain close up, and you go, I see what's going on here. It's a mountain, beautiful. You climb over the mountain, and then you see there's more stuff and more stuff and more stuff, and then you realize you're in a sphere, so you ended up back where you started from. But then once you leave the universe, I mean the galaxy, and you keep going and going, you will never find the edge of anything, because no matter how far you go, like let's say you had the ability to travel at 100 billion light years in a second. So boom, now you're 100 billion light years from here. And you look around, it would look exactly the way it looks like from here. You wouldn't be up against a wall, you know, saying, okay, I'm up against a wall here. This is the universe. And because even if that were true, even if you were up against the wall and you reach the edge of the universe and whatever the universe is held inside of, then you would say, okay, if we break through this, what's beyond that, and what's beyond that, and what's beyond that, right? And that's what's mind-boggling. Yeah, but I always thought, like, what about if there was no such thing as anything? Now, you wouldn't know it, obviously, but I'm just thinking, now that you're here thinking about it, it's very strange, the nothingness concept. Because most people, when they think of nothing, they think of an empty space, where it's empty, but it's still space. And I'm thinking, if there was nothing at all, it's the whole thing. Why is there something instead of nothing? And no one can answer that. I know humanity's come up with cute stories, but those are not satisfying stories in terms of the truth. Not satisfying at all. They may have been, 1,000 years back, but they're limited, you know. And when I'm down in Barango Springs and I'm sitting on a chair at night looking up at the sky, it's overwhelming, the amount of stars that you see. It's just crazy. It's like one on top of the other. And yet, even though they're like, a millimeter next to each other, that millimeter in reality could be, 200-300 light years. It could be 10,000 light years. It could be 100,000 light years, because it could be the other side of the universe. The galaxy. So it looks close, but it's not. Space is basically empty. If you think about the amount of space that exists versus the amount of stuff inside the space, it's pretty much empty. You have one star here, then you have to keep going and going, and then you see another one here. For example, Voyager 1 and 2 that left in '77, those things have been traveling now for 45 years, 47 years, right? So they've been traveling at 38,000 miles per hour, and they're barely outside of our solar system, barely. It was a few years ago they escaped the sun's influence, and that's not even a light day. It's not even a light day. One day, speed of light would reach it. That's nothing. And we've been pushing this thing, traveling. This thing's been traveling for 46, 47 years, right? And it's basically still in our backyard. And it won't bump into anything in terms of stars for, I forget what they said, how many, hundreds of millions of years that it'll come close to something. And it won't even be that close. It'll still be like a few light years away, and it'll keep going. It's tough to crash into anything in outer space. But, you watch these things on the internet, physicists talking, theoretical physicists. Very interesting, but when they try and answer the question, what is the universe being held inside of, or what's beyond the observable? Years ago, they would just say, they would give you some ridiculous answer, but then they would say, well, there's nothing, because it hasn't been created yet. As the expansion goes, the universe creates whatever it's going into. Nowadays they say that well, we don't know, first of all, but then the universe may be infinite. And then I think if the universe is infinite, right, then how can it have a beginning if it's infinite? You have a beginning, you start expanding, and there should be a number you can measure it with. You could say, well, in reality, the universe is, 100 quadrillion light years across. So then what's beyond that? So it's when you get caught up in that, you start going around in circles. Science is just not advanced enough. We keep putting stuff up there like the Webb telescope, which is about 1 million miles out into space from Earth, and that's picking up some cool stuff, cool pictures, cool images, but even that's limited. You can only see so far. You can only see as far as light had time to travel, and you can't see beyond that. I suspect that the universe is much, much bigger than the observable. So say the observable is, about that big, about that big, just on the scale, right? It's about that big on scale. Well, the reality may be that the universe is really trillions of times bigger or quadrillions of times bigger than the observable. Like if you were to take the observable and put it next to what the actual universe is, the observable would be like a grain of sand. Yeah, that's what it would look like. It would look like a grain of sand next to what the observable looks like now. So you'd have a grain of sand inside the actual universe. But I'm telling you, it's just strange. It's strange that we're here, that we exist, and that all these other realities exist out there, all these other planets, all these other stars, the black holes, quasars, dark matter, dark energy, and who knows what else. The only thing we haven't found, life. We haven't found life. And I know it's got to be out there. It's got to be out there. If they come here, and they want to take me for a ride, I'm going. I'm going to go. Because I'm curious. I'd love to see, you know, what's there. But we are the universe. We are the universe. We're the eyes of the universe, the mind of the universe. We are the way that the universe has been able to realize that it exists. Without the brain of humanity or any other life form, the universe might as well not be here. And I've said other times that maybe there's other realities that aren't universe based. Maybe there's something else that we can't really, you know, even imagine. But you could never get to it because it's not part of this reality, no matter how fast you travel. Even if you were able to travel at 1 trillion light years per second, you would never get to this other reality because it's not connected. It's nowhere here. Where would it be? I don't know. You know, but you know, when I was a kid, I would go to the Science Museum a lot. I had a friend whose father worked there, and that friend I had, he was a really nice kid, very nice kid, very generous, you know, with his money, with his time, good kid. And his father worked down there, so back then we used to go to the Science Museum all the time. Call up his father, say, hey, we're going to be coming after school there, and his father would leave our names at the front desk, so then we would show up and we'd say, yeah, we're visiting, and then the guy would pull out a notepad or whatever, and our names would be on there, and he'd say, go in, and we'd go exploring. Yeah, I'm a big fan of science, you know, especially the kind of science that involves a DeLorean and plutonium. That's the way it is. I'm a big fan of that, you know, a little time travel. Anyway, that's it. It's after 11. Friday, April 19th, 2024. Space, the final frontier. These are the voyage of the Starship Enterprise. I'd like the theme song to that. They don't make theme songs anymore. Alright, anyway, I gotta go. Alright, that's it. Ciao.